Hello everybody. Today we'll continue to the next part of our rotating chart assignment. As you might see from my previous video, we programmed the scroll bar such that we can change the rotation angle of the pie chart. And in another version, of demo version, I also showed a continuously rotating chart, right? If we have the checkbox ticked, then the procedure continues forever, right? So continuously rotating effect. Yeah, and pressing stop button, yeah, definitely it will stop, right? So quite obvious and quite simple project, right? So yes, again, it rotates continuously. Of course, if you notice, the scroll bar also updates, and the reference cell is R1 in our case, right? So now we want to have this effect of continuous scrolling via continuous buttons and stop button and continuous rotation. So now let's go to the Visual Basic project. Just a little bit reminder what's going on there, and those who just want to skip all this video, I'm just going to show you the entire sub procedure, so that you, if you want, can simply stop this video. I will place this code in the down below as well, and yeah, you can follow the lines if you understand, or if you are privy with VBA, yeah, then you can skip this part and only copy and paste this part. But for those who are interested, interested in this project and just want to learn by example, by sample, then I want to make this project a learning by sample sort of way, and we'll go through step-by-step creation of the procedures. So I'm going to close this ready to go demo version, right? So that yeah, no, this one. Okay, I'm closing this already completed project, and we will work on this empty project with having only the scroll bar event programmed only, no buttons. See, as you can see, buttons are not working yet on this project. So how we can do that? Let's quickly go to the VBA project. Either we can go via Visual Basic, pressing Visual Basic under Developer tab, or just even double clicking this command button. We can go into the command button click sub procedure. As you can see, again, that's just a quick reminder how we did that scrolling chart. Quite easy. I'm exiting design mode. Quite easy. On the scroll bar, this is just a reminder. Those who are more interested could refer to my previous video with these detailed explanations. So all we have is just scroll bar change and scroll bar scroll events, and just one simple line of code, right? So we refer to the chart object, then chart rotation property, because it's a property, degrees of angle from 0 to 360, and we simply refer to our cell under R1, which is also the linked cell to our scroll bar, right? And we set the value into R1 cell, right? Value, in this case, rotation angle of the chart. That's it, quite simple. So this same line of code under scroll event, right? So change event and scroll event. Quite simple, right? Now we want to do a little bit more complex thing and more interesting thing. To start with, I will create a variable. In this case, I will say just brief. And this this variable will be set to our chart object. Okay, yeah, definitely there's an error. Okay, up to this point I'm copying simply, not to write it down again. So I'm saying that in this worksheet, which is rotating chart worksheet, right, which is the same, otherwise that would be sheet 2, right, as you might remember, right? Otherwise, because I am referring to the same worksheet, then instead of this one, I could simply say me. Where this sheet 2 came from? Actually, this is not the actual name of the worksheet, but if you can see in the project here, we have sheet 2, but the name, username is rotating chart, but actually the developer or the programming name, it is sheet 2. So actually we could say even worksheets and then refer to this rotating chart username. But anyways, let's not complicate things. So me will work just fine because we are in the same object, in this case in the same worksheet object. So we created this variable, then we set the variable value. In this case it is not a value, but it is an object. And how we set object? By this set keyword, right? Because we are working with an object. This is quite an important part. So then what we want to do, for example, just for simplicity reasons, we want simply to say once I press the button, please set the rotation angle of this chart to 90 degrees, for example, right? Let's see what happens, right? For example, then I would say my variable, then rotation equals 90 degrees. Let's see if it works or not. Boom, see, it works. It works. To verify that this is the exact number, you could further also say that, okay, set also the R1 cell value, and how we can refer it quite easily, just with this equals, in this case, chart rotation, right? But because we are referencing to the same procedure and to the same variable, definitely it would be the same. For checking and testing reasons, I would really suggest referring to the entire chart and the chart rotation property, which is the same, by the way, but this is just for the demonstration to make sure that we are on the right track, right? So now, see, right? So if I change it, for example, via scroll bar, for example, I'm changing it to a different angle, in this case, for example, 300 degrees, right? 300 degrees. Pressing this will set back the rotation angle into 90 degrees. In all cases, it will be 90 degrees, right? Quite simple, right? But now, what else I want to do? If I say, now I want to make this rotation, for example, in a continuous manner, say I click the button once, twice, as many times, and it will increment the rotation as many times as I am pressing the button, right? In this case, it is just simple. It always sets to 90, right? But what if I say, for example, in this case, let's go in a more granular way, say let's set it only to 30 degrees, and then I would like to set the increment to additional 30 degrees. In this case, I simply would say, okay, the same chart rotation value added by 30. Let's see what happens, for example. So I'm taking the same rotation and then I incrementing that same rotation angle by 30. So in this case, let's see if that works or not. Yes. So see what happens. So again, starting with 0, right? and I'm incrementing by 30 degrees every time I press. I increment the rotation angle by 30 degrees. Quite simple, right? Okay, this is the case. Now what happens? Because the property value cannot be more than 360, an error arises and says, yes, the property of this rotation cannot be more than 360. So I would put an additional if statement, right? And by that if statement, I would say, okay, if the value of rotation is more than 360, please set back it to 0, for example, right? So first of all, I need to check if chart rotation, I already have that copied in my keyboard, yeah, is greater than 360, then the same chart rotation should be 0. Otherwise, do this procedure, do this code, and if. Okay, quite simple, right? Up to this point, because I didn't reach to the for next loop yet, but I just want to make sure that we all understand how in the simplest way, right? How all this may work, right? And this is, by the way, one of the solutions. This is not the only solution. We could have done it many different ways. So let's see what happened, right? In this case, can we handle that error in this case? Still not. Yes, because it is more than 360, and it is never more than 360, because, right? So it should be something like, because plus my increment, I would say, right? So either I would say 59, right? 359. In this case, definitely that would be. But safer is to say this maximum number and minus my increment. In this case, the value of 30 would be just fine. Okay, so whenever the value of rotation angle is more than maximum value minus this 30 degrees, then set the rotation to 0. Otherwise, do as in a regular way, right? Right? Let's see what happens. Yeah, exactly. So because it sees that, okay, it is more than 360, even if it is, say, 350, right, or something, it will set back to 0. So this part worked, right? Chart rotation set back to its initial value, right, to 0. So let's go once again. So let's see what happens. Again, right? Yeah, we are going by 30 degrees every time we press the button, right? But as you can see, there is also some buggy thing, because here is what I mean. Once I reach to 360 degrees, then once it's set back to 0, it seems that the rotation of 0 and rotation of 360 are the same. That's why I am pressing one extra click, right? I'm doing one extra button press. See, again, so 360 degrees in this case, but I press one more time, right? Oh, and it's still 0. So but no rotation appears, because, yeah, 0 and 360 are the same, right? It's quite obvious. So to solve this, I would go do another trick and say, okay, not 30, but multiplied by 2, right? Quite a simple thing, right? Yeah, I'm going quite a simple way. So those who are a little bit might be afraid of recursion or recursive stuff in programming would be more comfortable, right? So once we get this, right, it would be easier to grasp the next point. So what a for next loop or any do loop would do is just, instead of my click, that I would say, okay, click this button a couple of times instead of human click, right? So what I would do in this case, I would say, okay, now I'm placing it into the for and next. Yeah, of course there is next. Okay. And I would say I just introduce just one new variable, right? We need to remember that with for loops, we are doing a procedure, or we are doing a code, certain code, so that we can run that code for certain number of times, right? Or it can be continuous number of times, right? That's another case. But in our case, I would say, okay, let's repeat this. For example, 10 times. Why it is 10 times? Because 30, right? 30 times 10, if we do this same code, if we run this same code 10 times, that would go from 0 to 300 degrees, right? This times 10, right? And it will reach to 300. And once it reaches 300, and the next one would cause with fire, actually would go to this part, and it will be set back to the original 0. So 10 times 30, and the 11th time will be the setback, right? Setback loop in this case. So I would say, right? So I would introduce any variable. In this case, usually we say, okay, for I, right? In this case, it's just integer, right? And I would say for I equal to, in this case, 1 to 10, right? Do this. It simply means that please repeat this code 10 times. In this case, 1 from 1 to I. Right? Quite simple, right? And also, of course, I need to also give an increment. Visual Basic is unique in this case, because in Java or in other programming language that would be totally different way of telling this. But here we need to increment this by 1, right? So it says, okay, I first time, then the incrementation. Of course, I could say also, please step by 1. It might be a little bit more complex. So in this case, let's go. Go in a simpler way. So, and let's see what happens, right? Okay. So if I set, yeah, the procedure runs, and it runs so fast that we cannot grasp, we cannot see, actually visualize how it works, right? Right? So in this case, all we need is, and again, remember, so I should have set it to, instead of 1, I should have set it either 0, so it becomes 11, right? Or I would say set this to 11, right? Let's see what happens. I'm again starting from 0 degrees, right? With 0 degrees, you know, because the variable is not set to this one, right? This reads from the variable of 0, but variable itself is not taking the value of this number. So that's why in this case that would be useful to come up with with an output, like regularly I would say, let's put a message box, right? Yeah, usually message box I, let's see what's going on right there. So, and also I would like to have another output of chart rotation. Okay, chart rotation. So this says, okay, message box and please output I, the value of I in this case. Where are we in that for next loop? And also I'm just separating those, right? And saying, okay, chart rotation. Let's see what happens, right? First message box. So this is the second, and in the second loop, it runs for the 30, yeah, because it is 1, then the next one becomes I plus 1, which becomes 2, right? And after 2, it says, okay, 30, then 60, right? So, yeah, then it will be. Okay, I see. This is something interesting because we are incrementing, so it goes by 2 instead of 1. Okay, so let's see what happens now. So now it goes 1, then 2, then 3, and 4, right? So once it reaches 60, in this case 330, then again it's set back to 0 again, right? Okay, right. So quite a simple arithmetic in this case. We could of course resolve this by saying from 0 to 10, which doesn't matter in this case really. Simply just for simplicity and for the index, that's always useful to start with 0. So and also, yeah, I forgot. So first of all, we need to read our variable so that it always starts from 0, right? In this case, I could simply say chart rotation, in this case, equals 0, right? Every time I press the button, it sets the rotation to 0, and only after that continues on, right? So no matter where I am in this case, right, it will always start from 0, right? Yeah, and see, it always starts from 30 in this case because, yeah, it adds up 130, yeah, and only after that the message box is shown. So it's, yeah, it starts from 0, 30, then 160, right? Okay. Okay. That's simple, right? Up to this point, I hope. So what we could do also further is just incrementing by 1 more so that it goes completely 1 circle. Okay? Right? Okay? So, in this case, if you notice, we have only the message box shown, but the chart rotation, right, is not updated. Because actually Visual Basic cannot handle, actually we need another just magic word to handle all this, so that both message box rises is shown and the chart gets updated in this case. So if I place it to events, right, that would mean that, okay, please do other events as well, right, so to speak, right, just in a simplified way, so that both message box is shown and also other events, other results of this procedure, other results of this code are also shown. Okay, most likely it is. I need to place these DoEvents before, I guess, before the if, so that every other loop. Yeah, it updates. Of course, it updates on every other click because our incrementation again. See, if I close this, right, and let's go again, right? So message box, then every other time. Every other time, meaning that we place two DoEvents in this case, and yeah, exactly. Okay, I hope you all are fine, guys, up till this point. So again, these DoEvents, please, if you are more interested, you just Google, because our discussion is a little bit different than explaining DoEvents, right? What it does. But for now, just for simplicity, just one simple thing that we need to know about these DoEvents is that it allows us to handle multiple events, or actually the resulting of multiple events, right, or procedures, right, within the same code, right, within the same sub procedure, for example, in this case. We will improve, of course, all this, but again, this. So first of all, what we learned, I hope, to this point, that with for next loop, right, we place any code within that for next section, right? And this for next will run that as many times as we want. Further, if we want to increment that, right, by default it increments by 1 by default. But if we want to increment it by, say, by 2 or by 3 or something, further I could say, okay, step 2, in this case that would go from 0, then it will be 2, 4, etc. up to 11. In this case, it's an odd number. That would be, again, 10, and the next one would be set back to 1 in this case. If I would say, okay, step 1, then that would go 1 by 1 again. See, it is the same thing. By default, it is step 1. So, okay. But if I want to, but if I want to step, say, by 5s, so it adds 5s, then it will be 0, then 5, then 10, because the other one is already 15, but we have only 11. In that case, it will finish, right? It will exit the loop, right? So by default, step is set to 1. If you miss this part, it simply says step 1. Otherwise, you can specify the step. But again, for simplicity reasons, I will still write it down 1, so that you can always remember that there is a step somewhere, actually, at the end of this code, right? At the end of this for definition of statement. Okay. What would happen if we simply remove this message box part? Quite interesting, right? Oh, this is all we want, right? Is this what we want? I guess so, right? In the simplest way, right? Because it's too fast, because the incrementation is too big, actually. It happens only, I mean, it happens by 30, right? So if we want to make this more granular, I guess, yeah, you already know all this, right? We could increment it by 1. And yeah, instead of this 30, we could say, okay, 1 times 2. Okay, yeah, it's simple, but yeah, it should be like that. And now it should go 1 by 1 in a smoother way. But see what happens. Because we set our for next loop actually we limit it to 12 loops, right? This code again, it says please do it I equals to 0 till equals to 11, in this case 12 times. So please run this code, actually this code, right? This part of the code, whatever is included within this for next, right, section. So please do that 12 times, and this is exactly what it does, 12. Yeah, can you see that it does it 12 times? So we have only 12 degrees. See, it goes from 0 to 12. What we want to do actually is not 0 to 12 but yeah, 360, of course. So yeah, and it will go continuously up to 360. Okay, almost there, right? Exactly. So it says, okay, I reached 360. Once I reach 360, right, what it does, it says, okay, if my chart rotation is greater than 360 minus 2, in this case, right, 358, then please set back the chart rotation to 0. Otherwise, if it is not more than 358, then chart rotation increment it is, I mean, add up only one, right? Go one by one. Right? Now we need to understand why it became 1 instead of 0, right? Again, we are running this, and okay, so because we are actually, see, the problem is this one. So because we are having, actually this is 0 to 360, actually it is 1 0 more, right? So it is actually, it is 0 to 360, it is 361 actually. Yeah, don't you agree with me? So 361, so we are having one extra step. So from 160 and then 161 times more, because this for next loop actually is doing one step, one extra step. So that's why we need to have it 359 actually. So it is exactly 0 to 359, which is exactly doing this, running this code 360 times, right? Let's see if that fixes the thing. If that fixes the thing. Again, I'm doing this again. Yeah, exactly. Because now it ran only 360 times, not extra one, right? Okay, let me delete this, right? And with DoEvents, see, if I would undo, actually exclude this DoEvents, then all this rotation would happen. In this case, it happens so quickly, right? And we don't see anything, only this one number incrementation. Please pay attention to the cell R1, right? So actually the procedure and the code is run, but it is not shown, right? Because all the efforts, let me put it that way, of VBA, in this case, are used to show this change. In this case, the only change is done actually is the cell value change in R1. So it doesn't care about anything else. In this case, updating the rotational change of chart. That's why we want also additional DoEvent, right? So this is another, I guess, I hope, explanation, right? So that you could understand it more clearly. So see, in this case, yeah, both the cell value is updated and the chart overall, right? The chart rotation also is updated. And as you can see, the scroll bar also follows the same angle, right? So I hope this helps. Of course, I leave the stop button to you. Really, I don't want to be that much simplistic and that much detailed, because I already shared the code with you. So please comment down below whatever questions or whatever suggestions or whatever findings you would have. The same with the continue. With the continue checkbox, again, it's another interesting point. I will explain this checkbox option later, but again, please let me know in the comments down below whatever questions or whatever suggestions you might have had, right? So thank you, and in my next video I will come up with more complex example of the same chart rotation, because as you noticed, the rotation actually it's nice, but it takes quite a while, right? How we could also handle the timer, right? How we could introduce a timer in our Visual Basic code so that we could sort of set the desired time frame of this rotation, right? Because with these 4 next, it may run with different, it will definitely run at different speeds on different computer, depending on your computing power of your PC, of your laptop. The time frame may differ. So how are we going to overcome that issue as well? So keep up with me, and on the next video, yeah, it will be a little bit more complex and more advanced topic, how we are going to refer to actually the kernel library in this case, because there are built-in kernel functions so that we can create our own sleep function in the VBA. And referring to that kernel library, we would instance timer and solve that limitation. Okay, thanks for watching and have a nice day.